Narcissistic abuse, like a devastating storm, not only robs victims of peace and confidence, but also plants lingering wounds deep within their souls. These wounds, though invisible to the naked eye, profoundly impact how they communicate, behave, and interact with the world around them. Many survivors, even after escaping toxic relationships, carry psychological scars that are hard to heal. They may become withdrawn, reserved, or conversely, overly defensive in social interactions. They might struggle to express emotions, build trust, or even accept compliments. The 12 peculiar social behaviors we will explore below are the truest reflections of the wounds endured by victims of narcissistic abuse. Let us take a moment to understand them so we can empathize, share, and support them on their journey of healing and rediscovering their sense of self. They struggle to blend into social atmospheres. Amid loud and lively gatherings, have you ever noticed a wary glance or an uneasy posture? These may be signs of heightened vigilance, a common scar in those who have been victims of narcissistic abuse. Their minds resemble tightly strung cords, constantly scanning and analyzing every gesture, expression, and word from those around them. They search for, and sometimes exaggerate, any hint of hostility or manipulation. Even when none exists, relaxing and simply enjoying the moment seems like an unattainable luxury. This heightened vigilance, though it may appear excessive, is a defensive mechanism born from deep-seated trauma. Once subjected to the relentless pressure and control of volatile narcissists, they were forced to hone survival instincts, always ready for a fight. Even after breaking free from toxic relationships, their minds remain trapped in a cycle of hyper-awarenesses, struggling to trust in the safety of their surroundings. If you recognize these signs in someone, extend understanding and compassion. Behind their guarded demeanor lies a soul grappling with emotional wounds. Sometimes, just a little care or a sincere word of encouragement can warm a deeply hurt heart and help them take steady steps toward healing. Understanding to show love. This is how we connect and uplift one another in this journey of life. They exhibit unusual jealousy. Some emotional wounds are invisible but quietly eat away at the soul of those who have endured narcissistic abuse. Jealousy is one of the most telling manifestations of these hidden scars. You might notice them becoming easily jealous, even in seemingly harmless situations. A passing glance, an offhand comment, or a fleeting gesture of kindness toward someone else might be enough to stir up intense emotions within them. But this isn't a sign of selfishness or pettiness. It's a deep-seated fear of betrayal, abandonment, and pain, feelings they've experienced so often that they've become haunting specters in their minds. Dr. Craig Malkin, a renowned psychologist and author of Rethinking Narcissism, explains, "People who have been abused by narcissists often live in a perpetual state of insecurity. They are accustomed to manipulation and betrayal, which undermines not only their trust in others, but also their trust in themselves. Jealousy, in their case, is not about control, but a silent cry for safety. The traumatic experiences of their past have sown seeds of profound doubt in their minds. They often feel they're not good enough, not worthy of love, and live with the constant fear that their love could be taken away at any moment. As a result, they exist in a state of heightened vigilance, striving to protect the little they believe they can hold on to. If you encounter someone who exhibits such jealousy, try to approach them with empathy rather than judgment. Beneath their defensive reactions lies a person struggling to navigate a storm of insecurity and longing for reassurance. By offering patience and understanding, you might help them begin to feel safer, little by little, as they work toward healing. They apologize excessively. For some, the word sorry becomes a reflex, a habitual response, uttered even when there is no fault to be found. This isn't a reflection of genuine remorse or responsibility, but a sign of a soul that has been battered by narcissistic abuse. Dr. Judith Herman, an esteemed psychologist and author of Trauma and Recovery, once remarked, "Those manipulated by narcissists often carry a profound sense of guilt. This stems from the abuser's subtle yet powerful tactics of blame shifting and reality distortion designed to control the victim. People in this state apologize for the smallest things, even for situations beyond their control. Their apologies aren't admissions of guilt, but an attempt to shield themselves from the anger or criticism they've grown so accustomed to in the past. Narcissists often use blame as a psychological weapon, distorting reality to convince their victims that they are the source of all problems. This tactic enables the narcissist to manipulate the victim's emotions and behaviors, making them feel perpetually at fault. As a result, victims carry the weight of undeserved guilt, perpetually seeking to atone and please others. Sorry ceases to be a genuine expression of contrition. It becomes a survival tool, a way to navigate a world filled with emotional landmines. If you notice someone apologizing excessively, take a moment to recognize the pain behind their words. Their instinct to apologize reflects a deep-seated fear and an effort to protect themselves from harm. By offering them reassurance and understanding, you can help them start to unlearn this pattern and reclaim their sense of self-worth. They use passive language in communication. Those who have lived in the shadow of narcissistic abuse often carry an invisible fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of displeasing others, and the fear of becoming the target of criticism. This fear not only strips away their assertiveness, but also traps them in a cycle of hesitant, passive speech. Instead of confidently saying, "I want" or "I need," they might opt for vague expressions like, "maybe we could," or "I was thinking that." Behind these tentative words is the image of someone walking on thin ice, terrified that one wrong word could cause everything to collapse. Dr. Harriet Lerner, psychologist and author of The Dance of Anger, explains, "Survivors of narcissistic abuse often sacrifice their voice to survive. They learn that asserting themselves can lead to conflict, criticism, or deeply wounding words. Over time, they develop a communication style that minimizes the risk of harm, but at the cost of losing a true connection to themselves. In an environment controlled by a narcissist, their genuine needs and emotions were often dismissed or distorted. To protect themselves, they learned to suppress and hide their desires, using language so soft it was almost invisible. This strategy helped them avoid conflict and became a survival mechanism deeply ingrained in their psyche. However, once free from toxic relationships, this pattern of passive communication becomes a significant barrier to their freedom and happiness. This is when they must begin to find their voice, not to please others, but to affirm their own worth and individuality. If you notice someone struggling with passive language, understand that it stems from years of emotional conditioning. Encouraging them to speak up, validating their needs, and showing them that their voice matters can be crucial in helping them rediscover their strength and reclaim their authentic self. They struggle with setting boundaries. Personal boundaries, the invisible lines that protect us from external violations, should be a natural part of life. But for those who have survived narcissistic abuse, this concept becomes a tangled mess of confusion and pain. The wounds they carry transform them into fragile hedgehogs, perpetually facing two stark choices: either curl up and endure the invasion of their space, or bristle with defensive spikes against any approach, no matter how harmless. It becomes the entirety. This struggle to establish and defend personal boundaries stems from deep psychological scars inflicted during relationships with narcissists. Narcissists often use subtle yet pervasive manipulation to control and invade their victims' personal space. They convince their targets that their emotions, needs, or boundaries are insignificant, or worse, shameful, Over time, the victim becomes disoriented, losing their ability to distinguish between boundaries that must be protected and healthy connections that should be nurtured. Dr. Nina Brown, psychologist and author of Children of the Self-Absorbed, observes, "People abused by narcissists often develop a sense of helplessness and lack of confidence in protecting their boundaries. The relentless overstepping they endure leads them to either over-accommodate or erect impenetrable walls to safeguard themselves. This dynamic leaves survivors trapped in extremes, either passively allowing their boundaries to be violated or responding with excessive defensiveness, shutting out even supportive relationships. If someone in your life seems to struggle with boundaries, recognize that their reactions stem from a long history of emotional conditioning. Help them by showing patience and respect for their boundaries, however inconsistent they might seem. By modeling healthy boundary setting and offering reassurance, you can support them in reclaiming their personal space and rediscovering the balance between vulnerability and self-protection. They idealize new relationships. Emerging from the suffocating grip of a toxic relationship with a narcissist, survivors often carry an intense yearning for genuine love and connection. They long for healing, for the empty spaces in their hearts to be filled. In this quest for happiness, however, they sometimes stumble into another trap, idealizing a new relationship. Like a fledgling bird freed from a cramped cage, they may quickly dive into the arms of a new partner, viewing this person through rose-colored glasses and painting an image of perfect love. The new partner becomes the embodiment of all good qualities, a cure for the wounds of the past. However, this expectation set unrealistically high, they are prone to disappointment when the new partner inevitably falls short of their idealized image. They may overlook red flags or incompatibilities because of their deep desire for a perfect love to compensate for their past losses. Idealizing a new relationship is a natural psychological response for those who have endured narcissistic abuse. It reflects their desperation to reclaim a sense of safety and connection. But this pattern can lead to heartbreak if not approached with awareness. They need understanding and support to recognize that true love isn't about perfection, it's about acceptance, mutual sharing, and growing together. Exercising expectations by giving the general population management of their embarrassment and stress. Only by letting go of illusions can they create healthy, sustainable relationships based on reality rather than fantasy. If you know someone who tends to idealize their relationships, be patient and encouraging. Help them see the value in steady, authentic connections rather than fleeting fantasies. With time and self-awareness, they can learn to balance hope with realism and build fulfilling relationships rooted in trust and understanding. They appear overly polite or formal. In daily interactions, some individuals maintain a level of politeness and formality that feels unusual. They are meticulous with their words, cautious in their gestures, and always keep a certain distance, adhering rigidly to social norms. Even in casual conversations, they retain this polite armor, which can make others feel stifled or distant. If you observe closely, you'll find that this excessive courtesy masks a deeply wounded soul. These individuals, often survivors of narcissistic abuse, have unconsciously developed this defensive mechanism as a way to navigate their world and protect themselves. In their past, they lived in an environment where every word and action had to be meticulously measured. Any expression of individuality or personal opinion could lead to conflict, criticism, or even psychological punishment from the narcissist. To shield themselves, they learn to suppress their emotions and polish themselves to fit into restrictive molds, clinging to fragile moments of peace. This habit of being overly polite, though sometimes awkward or frustrating, is a shield they've crafted to ward off further harm. It silently communicates, "I am harmless, please don't hurt me." Understanding this, we can view their seemingly excessive politeness with greater empathy. Be patient and gentle. giving them the time and space they need to gradually shed this protective layer. With encouragement and trust, they may find the courage to let their true selves emerge, embracing their individuality without fear. They over-explain. Have you ever met someone who feels compelled to meticulously explain every action or emotion, even when no one asks for it? They might speak at length, detailing even the smallest aspects, striving to prove that their feelings and behaviors are valid. It's as if they're trying to convince not just others, but also themselves. Behind this tendency to over-explain lies a long story of deep emotional wounds. It is a psychological scar carried by those who have endured toxic relationships with narcissists. In those relationships, they were not allowed to simply be. Every word, action, and emotion was dismissed, invalidated, or twisted by the narcissist. They were manipulated into believing they were always wrong, that their feelings were worthless. Expressing themselves became a perpetual battle they could never win, forcing them to justify themselves constantly, not just to seek recognition, but to avoid the narcissist's wrath, criticism, or chilling indifference. Even after escaping the toxic relationship, this habit of over-explaining clings to them like a shadow. It reflects a profound fear, the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or dismissed. They feel compelled to clarify everything, every minor emotion, every decision, every action, to protect themselves from the echoes of past pain. Sadly, this behavior, despite being driven by a desire to be understood, often backfires. Over-explaining can overwhelm others, making them feel stifled or impatient. At the same time, the person doing the explaining often feels drained, constantly on guard to prove their worth in every conversation. If you encounter someone with this tendency, try to respond with patience and kindness. Recognize that their over-explaining stems from a place of deep insecurity and past invalidation. By showing them that their words and feelings are valued without extensive justification, you can help them begin to trust in their inherent worth and communicate with more ease and confidence. They doubt all compliments. This behavior stems from the deep wounds they carry from their past. Dr. Catherine Pittman, a trauma psychology expert, explains, people who have been in toxic relationships with narcissists often develop a strong sense of skepticism toward compliments. In their environment, praise was either rare or, worse, used as a tool for manipulation. This not only makes them distrust others, but also leads them to question their own self-worth. In such environments, compliments weren't genuine acknowledgements, but were often employed to serve the narcissist's agenda. A kind word might come with unspoken demands, or act as a prelude to harsh criticism. Over time, they lost trust in the sincerity of compliments, perceiving them as red flags for impending manipulation. Additionally, frequent belittling and criticism left many survivors with a negative self-image. When they receive praise, it triggers feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. They might question whether they truly deserve it or fear it is a mistake, or worse, a trap. This defensive response to compliments reflects a history of betrayal and invalidation. Even when the compliments are genuine, their internalized doubts and fears make it hard to accept them without suspicion. If you notice someone doubting compliments, approach them with patience and understanding, acknowledge their discomfort, and provide reassurance without pressure. Over time, through consistent and unconditional affirmation, they may begin to rebuild trust in others' intentions and, most importantly, in their own worthiness. They avoid eye contact. It's often said, the eyes are the windows to the soul, but for survivors of narcissistic abuse, those windows often remain closed, avoiding direct gaze. This avoidance isn't a sign of shyness or lack of goodwill. It's rooted in past experiences where something as seemingly innocent as eye contact became a source of deep pain. In their past, eye contact wasn't just a form of communication, it was wielded as a tool of intimidation, scrutiny, and manipulation. Narcissists often use their gaze as a weapon of power, making victims feel exposed, vulnerable, and powerless. These gazes weren't about connection or understanding, but about control, an unspoken way to probe, judge, and dominate. Sometimes, a cold stare or a calculated look was enough to make the victim feel violated, anxious, or even afraid. Over time, survivors learned to lower their eyes, to look elsewhere as a means of self-protection against the invisible but heavy oppression. Dr. Judith Herman, psychologist and author of Trauma and Recovery, noted, "The gaze of a manipulator doesn't just communicate, it imposes." It creates an environment where the victim feels stripped of privacy and utterly exposed. Over time, victims learn to avoid eye contact to reduce their sense of vulnerability and insecurity. Avoiding eye contact gradually becomes an ingrained defensive reflex. For survivors, meeting someone's gaze can feel like stepping into a danger zone, where their thoughts and emotions might be read and exploited. They divert their eyes, not out of coldness or disinterest, but to protect themselves from further harm. Even after escaping toxic relationships, this psychological wound lingers. For them, eye contact, typically a gesture of sincerity and connection, can still provoke discomfort and anxiety. Even in the presence of trustworthy people with kind intentions, it can be challenging for survivors to overcome their sense of unease. If you notice someone avoiding eye contact, try to be patient and understanding. Their avoidance isn't personal, it's a survival mechanism. With time, trust, and reassurance, they may gradually feel safe enough to open their windows to the world again. They struggle to stay focused during conversations. In conversations, you might notice them becoming distant, their gaze drifting as if lost in another world. Don't be quick to label them as inattentive or disengaged. Behind those moments of distraction lies a stormy inner world where old wounds are still raw and ready to resurface. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often carry painful memories and turbulent emotions that refuse to fade easily. These lingering aftershocks of trauma can surface like sudden undercurrents, pulling them back into the depths of their past pain. When this happens, the present moment fades away. The voices, faces, and words around them blur, leaving only the weight of unwanted memories that consume their thoughts. This loss of focus isn't a conscious choice to ignore the conversation, but rather an unconscious escape from the present. It's their mind and body's way of seeking refuge, attempting to shield themselves from emotions that feel overwhelming. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, explains, "Trauma survivors often find themselves trapped between the past and the present. Painful memories don't just linger in the mind, they are etched into the body, ready to resurface at any moment. Distractedness isn't carelessness, it's the mind's attempt to avoid confronting repressed emotions. These moments of distraction aren't deliberate, they are an instinctive reaction of a soul deeply scarred by past experiences. It's like a pressure valve releasing pent-up tension, allowing them to momentarily withdraw from the present to cope with the surge of inner turmoil. During these episodes, they aren't just disconnected from their surroundings, they are caught in a whirlpool of complex emotions, pain, fear, helplessness, and sometimes anger. These memories rise like powerful waves, sweeping them away from the present moment, leaving them unable to fully control their thoughts or emotions. Rather than viewing this lack of focus as a flaw, consider it a reminder that they are still navigating their healing journey. They need time, space, and understanding to learn how to manage and process these overwhelming emotions. A patient, empathetic presence can make a world of difference as they work through these moments and move closer to reclaiming their sense of peace and stability. They use laughter to hide their inner emotions. For many, a smile symbolizes joy and happiness. But for survivors of narcissistic abuse, It can often be the perfect mask to conceal deep emotional wounds. They don't just know how to laugh. They have a unique sense of humor, filled with subtle nuances, often a mix of sarcasm, dark wit, and, at times, self-deprecation. These individuals have a knack for making others laugh with witty anecdotes or sharp satirical remarks. Yet if you look closer, behind that laughter lies sadness and unspoken pain. For them, laughter isn't just a way to create a light-hearted atmosphere or gain attention. It's also a weapon to deflect attention from the negative emotions they're trying to suppress. In their inner world, laughter serves as a lifeline, helping them escape the stormy seas of painful and unstable emotions left behind by their past. Dr. Frank Farley, a psychologist and expert on the psychological effects of humor, observes, "Humor is a powerful defense mechanism. For those who have endured trauma, laughter isn't merely an outward expression. It's a way to confront pain and seek balance within their soul. Humor becomes an invisible shield, protecting their hearts from the lingering wounds of the past. By laughing in the face of adversity, they learn to ease the pressure of life and create emotional distance from painful memories. This humor not only helps them cope, but also acts as a bridge to connect with others. They use laughter to share their innermost feelings without revealing too much. A clever joke or a sharp piece of satire can replace tearful confessions, because for them, laughter is far less vulnerable than pouring their hearts out. If you encounter someone who uses humor in this way, try to appreciate it as both a strength and a reflection of their resilience. At the same time, recognize that their laughter may carry unspoken emotions. By creating a space of trust and understanding, you can encourage them to express their feelings more openly when they feel ready, knowing they're supported and valued. The unusual social behaviors we've explored are not just signs of the wounds left by narcissistic abuse, they're also reminders of the strength of those who have endured and survived it. Though their actions may sometimes seem different, behind them is a soul striving to heal, seeking safety and trust in a world that once felt threatening. If you recognize these behaviors in yourself or someone around you, remember that they are not weaknesses, but natural responses to painful experiences. Understanding, empathy, and support are the most vital tools to help them and us rebuild a stronger, healthier life. Thank you for watching this video. If you found the content helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share to spread this positive message. See you in the next video.